I am so excited to be here at Blair Castle, the gateway to the Highlands. And this castle is the reason Queen Victoria decided to purchase Balmoral Castle, and why we have the entire royal family visiting Scotland today, the present day.
It was during her stay at Blair Castle in 1844 that Queen Victoria fell in love with the Scottish Highlands.
The beauty,
Of course.
the people,
Who
people
wouldn't?
like us, she bet. It was just wonderful.
Absolutely.
Even though it was a private holiday, the royal household was in attendance.
114 total? That can't be right.
No, that is. And
What?
when she brought her
It's like
up,
a whole community.
Yep.
When I married into the British aristocracy, it was the start of a wonderfully exciting journey. But it was also a little daunting. I became a Viscountess, and for an American girl from a small town outside Chicago, that was quite a shock.
I live with my husband Luke, heir to the Earl of Sandwich, and our family at Mapperton House in Dorset.
Living in a place like this is a joy, but also a challenge. And every day we're aware that we're preserving a very special part of Britain's heritage. Mapperton has opened up an extraordinary new world for me, and I can't wait to share it with you all.
So if you love castles and manors and stately homes as much as I do, please join this American Viscountess as I journey into the British countryside in search of some of Britain's finest historic houses.
In 1842, just 5 years after she ascended to the throne, Queen Victoria visited Scotland for the first time. And 2 years later, following the birth of their fourth child, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert returned to stay at Blair Castle. In the private library of the castle, Sarah Troughton explained more.
So Queen Victoria, 1844, she's here. This is before Balmoral, is that right? And is it because of her stay here that she decided, right, I want a residence in the Highlands as well?
Yes, I think she was very, very influenced by Prince Albert. Who
Right.
loved it and immediately saw a connection between here and the German landscape. And if you go, there isn't a public road, but there's a very good footpath. If you go up Glen Tilt, I think it's about 30 miles to Balmoral if you take that route. It's
Oh
not-
my goodness.
But there's a famous picture of them, which is actually at Balmoral. We've got one or two of the sketches of her crossing the Taff, which was one on a pony, which is one of the rivers she had to cross in order to go on her way. There's not a bridge now, but there wasn't in her day. And she's on a pony with her skirts lifted up, but her two pipers are waist deep, still piping as they cross in front of her. And the poor pony boy and everybody else. It was quite a sort of funny picture, really.
Right. And also, I think this visit really helped to establish their love of the Highlands, and that's why we have Balmoral. People then wanted to come and go up north and visit because of the impact that I think Queen Victoria has made here in Scotland.
I think that's right. I think the timing was good. I mean, the whole Jacobite rebellion and, you know, banning tartan after that, which was only ever half banned, actually.
Right, yeah.
A lot is made of the fact it was banned. All that was in the past. I
Right.
mean, it was 100 years in the past, so
Yes.
people were ready to appreciate the Highlands.
Yes.
And the Highlands have become a lot more modern by the Victorian era.
Right, right.
And were part of Britain, very firmly part of Britain. And I think that it was just
Yeah.
the ready moment for more travellers and
Yes.
more people to appreciate it.
And to be able to experience the beauty
Yeah.
of the Scottish Highlands.
No, definitely.
As loyal followers of our YouTube channel may know, I am currently captivated by the intriguing history of my husband's great-grandmother, Alberta Sturgis, an American heiress who, during the Gilded Age, ventured across the Atlantic to marry into British aristocracy, eventually becoming the 9th Countess of Sandwich. And throughout her 46-year marriage from 1905 to 1951, she frequently sailed between England and America on grand cruise liners like the Queen Mary. And I envision her in my imagination adorned in a most spectacular dress, possibly from the 1920s, and maybe even worn during one of those elegant shipboard dinners. And I'm excited to announce that this week's video is brought to you by June's Journey, an enthralling and free hidden object mystery game that transports players back to the charm of 1927. Tailored for fans of the Roaring Twenties, the game follows June Parker as she embarks on an iconic cruise liner journey to New York, uncovering a gripping mystery and revealing her family's hidden secrets. Whenever I crave a break from the demands of the 21st century and wish to immerse myself in the captivating atmosphere of the 1920s, I find comfort in June's company as we work together to solve intriguing mysteries.
And I love the customization features of this game.
Click the link in the description to download June's Journey for free and consider dressing in a style reminiscent, in one of your favorite dresses that helps you transport yourself to that bygone era. Now let's re-enter the enchanting world of June, the captivating 1920s, and indulge in some well-deserved me time.
In her diaries, Queen Victoria described the bold, wild scenery and how she and Prince Albert would drive out in the carriage along Glen Tilt, through woods overhanging the river. Details of the royals' stay at Blair, together with centuries of historic family documents, are kept secure in the archives of the castle. Sarah and I met archivist Karen Guthrie, and Sarah shared a chilling moment in the recent history of the castle.
There you go. This area of the castle, known as the Clock Tower, clocks above us, was burnt down in 2011. There was a fire. Under here used to be where the old wood chip boiler was working.
Yes.
And all the wood chip and the auger and the oil boiler to back it up. And the flue went up the tower,
yes,
and it overheated and caught light to the rafters. And it was so high up, the heat for quite a long time didn't set off an alarm. And in fact, somebody saw it, luckily, because it was about 8 o'clock at night. Somebody who lives over there saw it. And then my dog was very anxious.
Right.
When I went to let him out, I saw these flames leaping out, terrible.
How long did it take to put out the fire, and did the fire spread, or was it contained?
Amazingly, unfortunately, was contained in the area of the boiler below and the clock tower. When we came here, my husband absolutely insisted on putting on fire doors everywhere. He said that's very vulnerable, that area, and thank God they'd been installed, and it did keep the fire into just this area. Right. And the archives in those days were stored up at the other end of the castle.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because here I am in the archive room, and I was thinking, oh dear, the archives, but they were stored, in a different location.
Fortunately.
Oh, thank goodness. When you rebuilt this, how long did it take to rebuild? Because I know, these things take such time, especially at these historic houses.
It wasn't too bad. I think we obviously had to clear everything with the insurance. But I think it was about just over a year before we had this up and running.
And during that period, is that when you decided to move the archives in here and make this the new archive space? How did that come to be?
Yes, we decided immediately that any boiler we had in future was not going to be in the castle. It would be out in an outbuilding. Obvious decision. And then so then obviously, what are we going to do with this? And we had all sorts of thoughts, but I'd always been nervous of the archives where they were before, because there was a flat above them, a domestic flat above them. And I thought it only takes someone to have the bath or overflow or leaking pipe.
Yes.
And things wouldn't have been very good. So we just thought, right, a purpose-built
Yes.
archive, a visitor's room where we are now, properly temperature controlled.
Yes, I can feel that. I can feel the temperature right when I walked in.
And actually, I think it was a good decision.
Yeah. No, brilliant.
The castle holds archives of the royal visit in 1844, with the friendship of Queen Victoria and Lady Glenlyon, later the 6th Duchess of Atholl, recorded in private correspondence.
Throughout their lives, they wrote letters back and forward to each other. And we have all these letters that Queen Victoria wrote to her. And they're friends' letters. They're not political letters.
Right.
They're just two ladies writing about their families.
And how would they address one another? I'm just curious.
The Queen addresses her as Dear Duchess.
Oh, she does. So they were very close.
Very close. The 6th Duchess of Atholl was mistress of the robes or the bedchamber.
Okay.
And Queen Victoria actually sent Duchess Anne this drawing that she had done, explaining how she would like her train carried. We can see it's come from Buckingham Palace. Yes. A lot of the letters are edged in black, and we know this is after Prince Albert had died.
Right.
When she visited the castle in 1844, we have this house book here, which was kept by the housekeeper, and it lists all of the people that she brought with her.
No.
So these are all of the staff she brought with her.
It says at the bottom, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel it says 114 total. That can't be right.
No, that is. And
What?
when you think this was a quiet family holiday.
Oh my goodness.
And she brought her
It's like
up,
a whole community.
Yep.
It's like village.
She brought her upholsterer, just in case.
Which I noticed the piper as well, of course. Hairdresser.
She has a pastry chef, a confectioner,
A roasting cook.
three just normal cooks.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Those were the days that no longer exist. But fantastic that you've got this incredible record. Now, when you were opening up with that book, I did just spot this. It says private, keep this locked up.
So this is the letter from Lord Glenlyon to Lady Glenlyon about a private visit of Queen Victoria to the castle.
In 1844.
In 1844. So the same visit we see here.
Okay. Do you mind if I read a little passage here? Okay, it says, I have the very greatest pleasure and heartfelt satisfaction in placing the castle of B, Castle of Blair, is that right?
Yes.
And the forest of A, Atholl, entirely at Her Majesty's disposal for any length of period she may do me the honor to make use of it. So, wow, this is it. Absolutely incredibly special.
The enjoyment and privacy of Queen Victoria's stay at Blair Castle in 1844 was so treasured that the monarch bestowed a special honor on the men of the Atholl estates who had guarded the royal party. Bertie Troughton and I met up with Regimental Sergeant Major Graham Jack of the Atholl Highlanders to hear about royal connections and the history of the regiment.
Can you give me a little bit of the history and the origins of the Atholl Highlanders?
We go back so far in history. We were at Culloden. We've been Well, we were signed up to go to America in 1777.
Were you?
The American Wars, yes.
oh
There
my
was
gosh, wow.
200 local men and 1,000 other recruits, all ready to go from Glasgow,
Right.
and the war ended in America.
Yes. it
So our 12 companies were distributed through Ireland, and we were there for very nearly 6 years.
did. Okay.
And we were going to fight in India, and there was a problem with the men because there was no re-engagement bounty, and there was almost a mutiny.
Right.
And in 1783, we were disbanded.
Were you? Oh my goodness.
Disbanded.
Disbanded.
Not wearing what we're wearing today.
Okay.
This has all come about through Lord Glenlyon,
Okay.
later the 6th Duke. And the uniform you see today, with the exceptions of the white on the sleeves and the collar and the stockings, was the same uniform he put together for a retinue of men to go to Ayrshire for the Eglinton tournament.
How fantastic.
1839 it started, and that was it. So in 1842, Queen Victoria,
Yes.
this is our first touch with Queen Victoria, and Prince Albert were going to Taymouth Castle. Now, to get to Taymouth Castle, boat from Edinburgh to Dundee, coach
Yes.
from Dundee to Taymouth Castle.
Okay.
So they had to come by coach to Dunkeld. Now,
Right.
Lord Glenlyon was aware this was happening, and he put out an invitation to Queen Victoria to have lunch in Dunkeld. So very early that morning, he set off from the castle here, and on his way to Dunkeld, he picked up retinues of supporters. And by the time he got to Dunkeld, if I'm correct in saying, there was 977 men
No. Right. All to meet the Queen.
to meet the Queen
Right. Incredible.
in Dunkeld. And there he entertained Her Majesty and Prince Albert to lunch. And she asked if any of the men could dance. And some of the men could dance. So they danced reels for Queen Victoria
Right.
at Dunkeld. So that was the first time we'd ever met Queen Victoria.
Okay.
But this was before she started to look for a property in Scotland.
Okay.
She was looking for a castle in Scotland. She fell in love with Scotland.
Right.
The beauty.
Of course.
The people.
Who
people
wouldn't?
like us that she met. It was just wonderful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just 2 years later, in September 1844, when Queen Victoria and Prince Albert stayed at Blair, the Atholl Highlanders protected the royal family at the castle.
We had a guard at the front of the castle, and there was an officer and men 24 hours a day throughout the whole of her stay. And it was that friendship shown to her that brought about colours being presented to the Atholl Highlanders.
Right.
So we have colours today which
Yes.
are replicas of those first colours.
Yes.
And these were signed off and presented to the Atholl Highlanders the following year in 1845, and it gives us the right to bear arms
Right.
in the Queen's defence.
That is incredible. And so that was quite an honour, is that right?
Very much
During
an
that time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's why the Atholl Highlanders are often referred to as the only private regiment or the only private army in Europe, because of the Queen's colours that we have.
Because of the Queen's colours.
You've got to come and see the Atholl Highlanders in the end of May when we have the Atholl gathering.
Absolutely,
Because on the Saturday there's the full military parade, and it's, you know, we're about 100
Right.
men, including the band.
How magnificent. No, I definitely will come back. Now, you did mention something here, Bertie, and you said we. Now, I heard that we. So, are you involved? What's the connection here? I mean, I don't see any dress here, but I'm assuming.
Now,
You have one.
I am in the Atholl Highlanders. I'm very low-ranked officer. Yeah.
Lieutenant Bertie Trotton.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I don't look half as smart as Graham. I try, but
So, can you describe to me sort of the ranks?
Okay. So officers will start at lieutenant,
Yes.
captain, major, lieutenant colonel, colonel. That's the way it goes. And the colonel is duke,
Okay. Right.
which is Bruce Murray, and he lives in Africa now.
Right.
But
Right.
when I started service, it was the 10th duke. It was Bertie's great uncle, Ian.
uncle. Yeah.
Yes.
Uncle.
Yes.
It was him when I joined in 1977.
Okay. Incredible.
I've been here a long
So,
time.
yeah,
I'm
you're
in with the
coming-
bricks now.
You're coming up to 50 years.
Yeah, coming up to
Coming
that,
up to
yeah,
50
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Now, can we just talk about this This is spectacular. Okay, first of all, this is this is the Murray Tartan,
blade,
right?
yeah.
So this is the Murray Tartan. I mean, it's beautiful. I would quite like that.
These are unique. This dates to 1839. This particular plaid. These plaids are made of linen. They're not wool. It's
Right,
a
yeah, I
linen
did.
cloth.
When I touched it, I
and
felt.
they're very different.
Yeah, it's a thick linen.
Yes,
Very thick
yes,
linen.
very much so.
Yes.
Very much so. These are in the original. So
How
you cannot
wonderful.
replicate the colours. If you look,
Yes, yes, I see.
there is the new colours. This
Yes,
is old colours.
colours,
You cannot replicate that anymore. They are so old. And when you think of how many people have had this plaid,
Lovely. Yes.
pleated,
Yes.
battle
absolutely.
wounds in it.
Yeah, yeah, you can see the battle wounds. This is incredible.
The plaid that you saw the old Highlanders wearing was a long piece of cloth. They laid it on the ground, they rolled into it, and pulled the waist belt through, pulled the bit over the shoulder to give you the same look as I have,
Yes.
but without all the paraphernalia, because I
Right.
can't dress myself.
Very similar
I
to
need
how
somebody to
I
dress
dressed
me.
this afternoon. Roll them up in it.
I was wondering what was taking so long. Now I know. Now I know.
So that is why, you know,
Right,
that
yes.
is the plaid. And if it's put on properly, the back should look like an eagle's wing.
It looks exactly like an eagle.
Yes, it does.
So if you think
he's put
if
it on
you think
properly.
of a bird of prey with its wings closed,
Yes.
that's how the back should look.
Yes.
Straight down the middle of the back.
Yes. Bertie,
Yeah.
well done. It's perfect. It's absolutely
No, I wouldn't
perfect.
say it was perfect, but he's trying.
How magnificent. Now, can we move
Oh,
up
yeah.
here?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Where would you like
Okay.
to start?
Well, yeah.
The juniper?
Yes.
Okay. Juniper is a bush plant which grows prolifically on the estate. This is a wild version of the juniper, and it does grow around. There's bushes at the top there.
Right, yes.
That's juniper bushes there. It's a very jaggy,
Yeah, it is.
very jaggy
Yeah.
material. Right. So
Yes.
when you've done your training,
Yes,
and
and the
on the
Duke
day,
says yes.
on parade day, you will be presented with your piece of juniper. Up to that point, you've got a Glengarry. This is a Glengarry bonnet.
A I'll say
Glengarry bonnet.
You've almost got a Glengarry bonnet.
I know,
for
I
that
was about to
parade.
say, I'm quite close. I was trying.
A Glengarry bonnet. And what we do is here, when you are presented, become a full-time Atholl Highlander, you present me a piece of juniper, and the juniper then is put in behind your cap badge like that,
Yes.
and then you wear that whenever you're on parade.
Wear that whenever you're.
The ducal cornet. So that's our royal connection.
Yes.
Then we have the wild man of Atholl.
Okay, well, I've seen him dotted around, and I haven't asked yet, but it seems to be he's holding sort of a dagger and a key.
This alludes to King James III of Scotland issued orders to Earls Crawford and Atholl
Okay.
to go and bring the Lord of the Isles, Earl Ross, into custody in 1475.
No.
He was creating a lot of trouble in
Yes,
the Isles,
yes.
and King James wasn't very happy about it. So Earl Crawford had the boats, Atholl had the men, they went,
They combined forces.
and yes, they went and they captured him, brought him back to Scotland where he stood trial. That is the wild man of Atholl, hence the key for locking him up
Yes.
and the dagger to capture him.
To capture him.
So 550 years ago,
Yeah.
1475.
The way back to
Incredible
James
history.
III. It's incredible history.
I started my working life on Atholl Estates here. So I started in the forestry in 1971 and I went to the farm in 1973 and I left the farm in 1980 and I joined the local police, Tayside Police. And I was in the police for 27 and a half years, and that is a long service police medal. And then that's the Queen's Golden Jubilee
And that's the
medal,
Queen's
because I got that
Golden.
when I was
Yes.
serving.
And so this is the Platinum Jubilee.
This is
So
the platinum that
recent
we
one.
have done, and that's why it's yellow and black, because the ducal colours are yellow and black.
Yes, exactly. I do know that. How wonderful. Can I ask, did you ever meet Her late Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II?
I have, yes, on several occasions.
Have you?
Both privately and when she's been officially on
Right.
things. We parade, we have walked through the Glen from here, as Queen Victoria did, to Braemar Gathering. And while the Queen is in residence, and now the King is in residence at Balmoral, every year they come to the Braemar gathering for an hour.
Do they?
So what we have done in the last couple of times is we have got a little help, a little transportation up to Forest Lodge, and then we walk through the valleys into Aberdeenshire. Get picked up at that, so we can all do it in a day.
Yes.
Get picked up at the other end, and our other clothes, our uniform clothes, we're wearing the kilt when we're going through, and our other uniform clothes are there, and we get dressed up, and then we parade for the gathering. And in 2011, we presented our colours to the Queen in the royal box, and she came forward and she touched our colours, which just re-establishes that connection.
Exactly, exactly. Wow, well, what a treat for me just to meet you, be in your presence, you know, have you transfer some of your wonderful, amazing knowledge onto me. But I will say, Bertie, the next time I come up here, I'm looking forward to you being dressed as smartly as Graham is.
I'll never be that smart, but I can try.
The original colours granted by Queen Victoria to the Atholl Highlanders in 1845 are kept secure in the attics of the castle, where Kieran carefully unwrapped them to show me.
So here we are in the attics, and this is the original Atholl Highlanders colours that were awarded by Queen Victoria.
No, these
are the original flag, so the colours, but they're in such a fragile condition we can't have them out on display. But there you see our Wild Man of Atholl.
Yes.
And the two colours.
And the two colours. Beautiful. So something like this, Kieran, I mean, of course it's very fragile. These are the original ones. Do you have to do any restoration around it, or is it better just to keep it as is?
These have actually been conserved, so they're now in a stable state.
Right.
So they are kept up here out of the way of the public and out of use.
Yes.
So they will stay like this, and hopefully that will mean the condition will be preserved for next generation.
Yeah, for the next generation. I mean, they are absolutely exquisite. What a treat to see this.
Thank you so much for joining me on this magical journey into the history and landscape of Blair Castle. It's been breathtaking. Be sure to join me soon for more historic house adventures in Scotland and across the UK.